To hell with Gambo's health. Let's just play Thin Lizzy.
It's the white noise.
No. In a moment of transparency, because you're not here, Gambo, Mitch had to step out to pre-record his show with Kellen tonight. So I had to play that update you just heard, pre-recorded. He taped it before he left. That's also the computer I've been playing our smooth jazz off of, and it was already occupied by the update. So I only have one pot. I needed to play two things. I had to sacrifice your hearing.
All right, that's it. That's it.
Your mental health or a pre-recorded segment on Arizona Sports at Night with Kellen and Mitch.
You see where the importance lies in this radio station?
I was expecting something relaxing and nice and calm and soothing. I
know. I found this on Spotify. I found this thing on Spotify. It's like calming sleepy music. So I have to put that on. Then I don't hear because I hear my heartbeat in my ear, like in my right ear.
Yeah.
So I got the little drummer boy playing my heartbeat in my ear.
While you're getting your hearing checked, and why the doctors told you yesterday no loud noises. So we've been trying to accommodate you, and then coming through, and all of a sudden Gambo's can't hear anything.
Well, I put it in a request just to do the show with Lauren. She has a much more soothing voice than you do. So we'll see if that goes through in the next day or two.
Wow. So I'm
a little louder. Into Gambo this week, but complimenting Caleb Williams and me on air in my soothing voice.
It's you're starting to. It took a while, but as the producer of the Burns Gambo show, you've clearly started to make inroads when he's already planning my demise on the show and your elevation to the role of co-host. Yes,
just until my hearing comes back.
Kyler Murray today on trying to stay positive despite the downs this season.
No, I mean. It's a long season. I've been on the end of starting off hot and, finishing not where you want to. But I also understand the mindset and the mentality that we have to have going into each week and going forward. And that's to focus on the next one, learn from the last one, focus on the next one, keep getting better, and attack each day, like it's my last. So that's the mentality. I got full faith in the guys and myself and the coaching staff to get us on the right track and get this thing going in the right direction.
It is always a tricky thing, Gambo, to look at a team schedule, any team schedule in the NFL, and start presuming things. It's why our running joke when the schedule is released, we know it's a joke. We don't even take it really that seriously. I mean, we do, but we don't. We know it's not something we're going to be held to. When the schedule comes out and we go win, loss, win, win, loss, 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 the schedule and its difficulty changes 5, 6, 7 times over the course of an offseason or a season as injuries happen and teams get good and teams rise and teams fall. That being said, our colleague Howard Balzer put out a story on cardswire.com in which he points out 5 of the first 6 games for the Cardinals were against playoff teams from a year ago. That part we knew. The current record of those 6 teams are right now 20-14, 20 wins, 14 losses. The Cardinals' 4 losses have come against teams that right now are a combined 16-7. The current combined record of the final 11 teams for the Cardinals, and this counts Seattle twice, is 28-34. Now, Howard's not trying to say this means the Cardinals are going to go win 9, 10, 11 games or whatever, but we all believed when the schedule came out it was really hard at first, and it eases up a little bit. The numbers would kind of back that up. Does the eye test back that up when you look at the schedule?
Is Tua playing for Miami? The Bears, like I said the other day, I think I look at the schedule and I think that the Bears are much better than they were a couple of weeks ago. I would have liked to have gotten them early rather than late. I think if Tua's playing, Miami is a very good offensive team. Like without him, they struggle a little bit. So I think that the Cardinals are we still don't know who they are. And I'll put it this way. They've had 2 games where they've absolutely been blown out and were kind of shocked and surprised and they were terrible in those 2 games. They got blown out by Green Bay, blown out by Washington. They had 2 really good wins. One was a blowout of the Rams. The other was a win over San Francisco. It wasn't a blowout, but it was very unexpected to go on the road and beat San Francisco. And then the 2 games that I think are more in line to what I believe they are is the Detroit and Buffalo games in which they lost, but they were 1-score games. Each game was a 1-score game. The Jets just got Devontae Adams. and they fired their coach. They should probably be a better team than they were 2 weeks ago. The Bears are playing better. Miami gets Tua back. They're better. Seattle just traded for a defensive lineman to make themselves better. I mean, Minnesota, you talk about the retread quarterbacks coming back. You look at that situation. The only ones I see that are gimmies are New England and Carolina. That's the only ones I see, and I'm like, okay, those are games you should win. New England's at home, Carolina's on the road. Every other game they play, I think, could go either way. I do. I think those games could go either way.
I think that's reasonable analysis. I don't think you're that. I don't think you're wrong. I think a lot of it just depends on circumstance. And, for example, you say Miami, that game's in 2 weeks. Is Tua back or not? We don't know. That will obviously have a lot. If he's not back, I think that becomes a much easier game for them. The New York Jets, yeah, they got Devontae Adams. I don't know how good the Jets are. I think they're desperate. I think Aaron Rodgers is old. I think this is kind of a Hail Mary attempt, as we talked about when the trade went down to find a fountain of youth for Aaron Rodgers, and I just don't know if it's there for him. I'm almost thinking, Gambo, that if they can go 2-2 over these next four, a 2-2 over the next four, and you're 4-6 going into the bye week, that would mean you have to play 500 football against the Chargers this week, the Dolphins the week after, the Bears, and the New York Jets. If you can go 2-2, then post-bye, you go into a schedule of Seattle, Minnesota, Seattle, New England, and Carolina. That is your make hay moment right there. That stretch. And I get it, Minnesota's tough. I'm not a huge believer in Seattle. I don't think they're that good. Their defense has taken on a lot of water now that they've started playing decent teams. I'm not a huge believer in the Seattle Seahawks. I think that 5-game stretch, if they can go into it at 500, right around 500, even a couple games behind, I think they can put themselves in a position to be the team that we all kind of hoped that they would be, playing meaningful games in December, right?
Okay, but you're saying the stretch that starts with Seattle after the bye week?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, but what if you go 2-2 going into
you're
that?
4-6.
You're 4-6.
You're 4-6. So if you can go, that's a 5-game stretch. If you can go 4-1 in that stretch, even 3-2 in that stretch, now you're just you're still a game below 500 going into your last 2 games, depending on how good of a record you need to have. So you're still kind of in the mix, right? Like you're on the verge of maybe having a successful season if you're only a game below 500 going into your last 2 games.
I'm going to follow you here for a second. Say you do go 2-2, now you're 4-6.
Okay.
You're right, because at that point you have to. If you split the next 2 games are on the road, Seattle and Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
If you split those, you're 5-7. They're both on the road. You're 5-7. You've got to win 4 to 5 now to get in. You got to win 4 to 5 to have a chance. To be 9-8.
But I'm not looking that long. I'm looking at winning your next 3 against Seattle, New England, and Carolina. Home against Seattle, home against New England, at Carolina. You win those 3 games, you're now 8-7 with 2 games to go.
Okay.
Right, and that to me is where this thing could potentially flip because I still like these next 4 games. I get it, they're tough, but if Tua doesn't play, it's not that tough. And the Chargers are good, but I don't think they're world beaters by any stretch. You know, I don't think they're one of the elite teams in the AFC. I agree with those who say the tough part of the schedule is behind them. Now we're kind of getting into the we'll see how good the Chargers are. We'll see how good the Jets are. You know, because I don't know if we really know for sure how good those teams are.
I think there was a time we were looking at the quarterbacks that they were going to play, and you know, like Herbert's one of the better ones they're going to play, and we were kind of looking at Chicago with a young quarterback, and you know, we looked at Seattle doesn't have a good quarterback, and we were like Minnesota with Sam Darnold. That's New England with May. Carolina at that time we thought it'd be Bryce, and now it's Andy Dalton. So you did have this stretch coming up, but you just like Minnesota was supposed to have an easy quarterback, and now they don't.
They don't. Right? Yeah. Right.
Right. Like I thought Chicago, you're like, okay, you're gonna have an easy quarterback. He's playing good. Carolina, you thought you'd get Bryce Young, who's terrible, and you end up with a veteran player in Andy Dalton, who at least gives him a chance to be competitive. So, I don't know. I'd like to see at some point. You're banking on a late season surge at the end. I'd like to get there a little bit quicker, but it may not be possible.
Thanks for watching Burns Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.